Our world, it's truly beautiful. Sunsets, oceans, children laughing in the streets, everything seems fine. But right now, while you're watching this video, thousands of children are working in mines and factories. No school, no childhood, and behind this are brands you have in your own home. Tens of thousands of children, especially in Africa, are paying with their childhood for someone else's profit. Today I'm going to expose the biggest companies responsible, and some of these names will shock you. Nestle, Mars, Hershey, these are the companies that make the chocolate you eat every day. But here's what they don't want you to know. In West Africa, in countries like Ivory Coast and Ghana, children as young as 12 years old are working on cocoa plantations. No school, no childhood, just working under the burning sun, carrying heavy bags, handling cocoa with toxic chemicals in bare hands. And these companies knew. In 2001, they actually signed a document, a promise to the US government that they would eliminate child labor from their supply chains. They gave themselves 4 years, then extended the deadline, then extended it again, and in the end, nothing changed. In 2021, former child slaves from Mali took Nestle to court directly. They said they were sold, trafficked to the plantations by force, and made to work without any pay. Think about it. These companies make billions off chocolate, and children on the other side of the world are paying for it with their childhood. Nike sells sneakers for $200, and the people who make them get paid $2 a day. Nike's main factories are in Indonesia, Cambodia, and Vietnam, countries with some of the lowest wages in the world. Nike publicly claimed that it pays its workers nearly double the local minimum wage. But when journalists went to Indonesia and talked to almost 100 workers from over 10 factories, not a single one was making anywhere close to that amount. One union leader responded to that claim with one word: bullshit. In more than half of Nike's factories, workers were putting in over 60 hours a week. In 1 out of every 4 factories, wages were below even the legal minimum. Workers who refused overtime were punished. In Cambodia, over 500 workers at Nike factories ended up in the hospital, collapsing on the factory floor from heat and exhaustion. Temperatures inside the factories reached nearly 40 degrees Celsius. 10-hour days, 6 days a week. In 2022, during the pandemic, Nike made record profits and bought back $18 billion of its own stock, mostly benefiting wealthy investors. At the same time, factories were cutting workers' wages. People couldn't put food on the table for their kids. $200 sneakers. Workers making less than $3 a day. Nike knew, and nothing changed. You're holding an iPhone that costs $1,000. Here's who paid the real price for it. Apple makes most of its iPhones in China, at factories run by a company called Foxconn. And what happens inside those factories is something Apple does not want you to see. At the world's largest iPhone factory in Zhengzhou, China, workers were putting in over 100 hours of overtime every single month. On top of their regular hours, they were pressured to hit impossible targets, and those who fell short were punished. Every fall when Apple releases a new iPhone, workers are forced to labor around the clock to meet production deadlines. Students from vocational schools were brought in illegally and given the exact same grueling shifts as regular workers, including overnight shifts. Workers live in dormitories right next to the factory. They eat, sleep, and work all in the same place. The factory has total control over their lives. Shifts can be extended at any moment. Families are torn apart. Children left behind in their hometowns without their parents. Now let's talk numbers. Apple is one of the richest companies in the history of humanity. The company is worth over $3 trillion. And yet the people who assemble their products with their own hands earn a wage they can barely feed a family on. Apple knew. They ran audits. They found violations. And they kept doing the same thing. McDonald's, Tyson Foods, General Mills. These aren't companies from some third world country. These are American brands. Brands you know, brands you trust. And child labor was found right here in the United States. Let's start with McDonald's. You've probably eaten there this week, but in 16 McDonald's locations across Louisiana and Texas, children as young as 14 were operating dangerous equipment and working late into the night. And that's not even the worst part. At a McDonald's in Kentucky, investigators found 2 10-year-old kids working without pay until 2 in the morning, cooking food, running the drive-thru, cleaning the restaurant. 10 years old. Tome, no pay. Now General Mills. You probably have their products in your kitchen right now. Cheerios, Nature Valley, Pillsbury. Over 100 children were found working overnight shifts in their facilities, handling toxic chemicals, cleaning dangerous industrial equipment with their bare hands, in the dark, while you were sleeping. And here's the part that will make your blood boil. When it all came out, these billion-dollar companies did the same thing. They pointed at their subcontractors and said, "We didn't know." Tyson Foods, General Mills, Walmart, Whole Foods, almost untouched. The small contractor got the fine. The big brands walked away clean. Between 2017 and 2023, American companies were fined $27 million for child labor violations, and the number of cases grew by 130% in just a few years. This isn't Africa, this isn't Asia, this is America, and it's happening right now. Marlboro, you've seen this pack a million times. In stores, in movies, in people's hands on the street. It's the best-selling cigarette in the world. Behind it stands Philip Morris, one of the richest tobacco giants on the planet. But before this cigarette reaches someone's hands, someone has to grow the tobacco. And this is where the story begins, the part they never talk about in advertisements. On tobacco farms in the United States and around the world, children work in the fields. Number 17-year-old teenagers, children, 12, 13 years old. They wake up before sunrise, go out into the fields, and spend the entire day picking tobacco leaves by hand, under the burning sun, without proper protection, without proper pay. And here's what happens to their bodies. Tobacco leaves contain nicotine, the same substance that makes smokers addicted. When a child handles those leaves with bare hands, all day long, the nicotine gets absorbed directly through the skin. This is called acute nicotine poisoning. Most of the children interviewed by human rights groups describe the same symptoms: nausea, vomiting, dizziness, headaches, every single day. It wasn't rare for them, it was normal. One girl started working in those fields when she was 12 years old. Human rights investigators spoke to her again when she was 16. She was still working there every summer. She said, "I don't feel any better than when I was 12. My head hurts. I feel sick. I feel like I'm going to throw up, but I keep working." And then comes the worst part. On some farms, workers said their passports were taken away, just like slaves. One family explained, "We worked all summer, but we were supposed to get paid only at the end of the season. The owner took our documents. Leaving was impossible. No passport, no money, in a foreign place. We were like slaves." Those were their words. And while all of this happens, Philip Morris makes billions. They sell cigarettes all over the world. They buy advertisements. They sponsor events. And on their farms, children with poison in their blood pick the leaves used to make those cigarettes. They knew. Human rights organizations sent letters, evidence, and requests for meetings. And what changed? Almost nothing. The next time you see a pack of Marlboro, remember that girl. She is 12 years old, and she already feels sick. And the most terrifying part of this story is that while some people become billionaires, other children still wake up every morning and go back to those fields. They continue working under the burning sun, continue suffering from nicotine poisoning, and continue enduring pain and nausea just to earn a few dollars. And most people have no idea what these children go through before those cigarettes ever reach store shelves. The next time you see a pack of Marlboro, just remember the price behind it, because sometimes, behind a simple package, there are things companies never want people to see. What do you think about this story? Write your opinion in the comments, and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this.